There's no.
You and Joe, well, that whole road.
It's the new road that down. And they can do that. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. The Missouri Western State University Board of Governors. The first item of business is the February 22nd, 2024 board meeting minutes. So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And the motion carried. We'll now hear the Personnel, Finance, and Operations Committee report. Al Landis is the chairman. Governor Landis, proceed.
Okay. The Missouri Western University Personnel, Finance, and Operation Committee met today, and I will turn it over this time to Vice President Daniel Holt.
Good afternoon, governors. I have a full report from this morning's committee meeting that includes fiscal year 2024 financial update, as well as the presentation of the fiscal year 2025 budget and approval of the budget, including tuition and fees for the coming academic year. Apologies. Actuals presented today, fiscal year 24 are as of March 31 of 2024, through 3/4 of our fiscal year. Current total operating revenues through March are $44,238,691. Since January, most of the change, approximately 88% of the change, has been in receipts of state grants due to ARPA funds for the CTAP project. As a reminder, the percentage of total shown is actual to revised budget. In total, operating grants, operating revenue to date is up 9.5%, primarily from state ARPA grants. As we forecast out our revenue for the remaining quarter, much of it hinges on summer school enrollment, which will become clear in the next few weeks. The majority of funds expected will be from ARPA grants for the CTAP project that is due for completion in late June. We also have traditionally seen athletic revenue move in a positive direction within the final quarter. For expenses, salaries, and compensation continue to trend below budget. While salaries are up over last year by $113,479, it is important to note that we have budgeted $27,665,417 after $953,119 of adjustments from the original budget of more than $28.6 million. Last fiscal year, we ended below $27 million. Early trends through 3/4 suggest that we will again end at or below $27 million in payroll. Therefore, significant salary savings are still expected in this line item for the final quarter. I would like to highlight these potential savings because of how we build the budget for 2025 is a little different in response to these adjustments. Fringe benefits are slightly ahead of desired pace at 77.1% of the budget, and savings are not expected as a result of health insurance premium increases effective January 1, but likely still lower to flat compared to fiscal year 2023. It will be critical for the university to continue efficiency efforts and control the level of spending on supplies and services as well as travel. We continue to monitor this closely into the remaining quarter. Supplies and services is trending relatively flat to fiscal year 2023. Last year, for context, we added approximately $2.35 million in the final quarter. Travel in the final quarter is mostly spring sports, as much of the professional development activities for the year have come to an end. Last year, we added nearly $600,000 in the final quarter to travel expenses. Utilities continue to be favorable at only 56.9% of the budget amount, despite energy rate increases in January. On this trajectory, we should realize significant utility savings at the conclusion of the fiscal year, but have withheld adjustments at this time. We could end the fiscal year as much as $500,000 under budget in utilities. I emphasize that because of fiscal year 25, we addressed the utilities a little bit differently as well. Scholarships are $1 million under budget because of lower enrollment. This is after the adjustments from the changes in early college academy made in the fall. We do have some summer scholarship remaining, however, are likely to finish well under the $18,766,000 revised budget with forecasts around $17.3 million. Operating expenses are currently $402,426 lower than this time last year. Non-operating budget to actual for non-operating funds State appropriations are where they should be at this point in time. The difference in grants is city ARPA proceeds for the CTAC project that we've spent at the end of this fiscal year. And we are in the middle of the work with Foundation that will increase the gifts to get it to close the gap on the variance there. The debt service principal identified in October of $2,934,051 put the budget into a deficit position of $1,588,145. Through savings, we've been able to have a slight reduction in the negative net financial position and decrease in overall prior year funds. In total, we've reduced the use of prior year funds to $1,423,759. Over the final 2 months, we expect to have significant adjustments again to salary, utilities, and scholarship that will significantly reduce that number further. Our cash position as of March 31 was $10,731,662, 18% lower than prior year. Total funds, including cash and investments, is $12,067,316, a 10.5% decrease, and that is the bar that you see on the screen before you. Prior year's cash variance, I'd like to point out from 2022, are primarily due to HERF funds provided to the university through the pandemic. Are there any questions or comments regarding the fiscal year 2024 financial statements? Hearing none, I'll move forward to the fiscal year 2025 budget proposed to the board. The 24-25 budget can be found in Board Effect. It is organized with tuition and fees scheduled first, followed by summary with totals and by fund and total for all funds. The university has prepared a budget for 24-25 that assumes a reduction in student headcount and credit hour of 5.5%. As usual, we will monitor enrollment for the next several months to determine the accuracy of that assumption for this budget model. Undergraduate residential tuition has been increased from $258 per credit hour to $277 per credit hour, a $19 increase. It is important for us to close the gap between our tuition rate and that of other public four-year institutions. We continue to be on the lower end, but this allows for us to have adequate revenue generation to sustain the mission-critical expenses within our model. We also increased mandatory fees by 12%, which equates to $5 per credit hour to support essential functions of the university that also experience cost increases. Despite predicting an enrollment decline, these cost increases project us to have an increased tuition and fee revenue year over year of approximately $520,683. You can see the individual increases in tuition and fees with the increased rates shown in red here. The complete list of rates and increases for online graduate program and course fees is provided within the overall budget documents on page 16. Increases to these rates are comparable with the notable change to program fees that are addressed to for the expected accreditation expenses the university will see in the next year as we prepare for our reassurance argument and other programmatic accreditation. At 30 credit hours, we realize a $720 increase over the current year, or $570 of which is tuition. That equates to 79% of the increases applied to the tuition. Auxiliary revenues, we have applied a 5% increase to housing rates. This is primarily a result of the previously mentioned rate increase by Evergy, which we expect to be approximately 14% for this area. Despite the increase, the overall change year over year is relatively flat due to the anticipated reduction in occupancy. You will see the 5% increase rounded to the nearest tens here applied to each of the residence halls. Discussions with Airmark are ongoing. However, a 5% increase has been cited, but we continue to look for creative ways to reduce the amount given the expected lower consumer price index in the year ahead. For revenues, we have increased by 5.5%, despite the expected 5% from Airmark, simply because we are extremely close to not covering our current expenses with the revenue generated from meal plans. We want to be certain that this is not the case moving forward, so we have added in a 0.5 point to adjust. You will see the increased board rates of 5.5% apply to each of the meal plans for the upcoming academic year. We'll be holding bookstore commissions and other sources flat for the upcoming year as well. Other auxiliary includes various items, miscellaneous items, soda, laundry, etc. We have held that as flat at $111,000. And I'll pause for a moment and see if there's any questions regarding the total revenues that we have of $43,650,405. Any questions or comments? Moving ahead for salaries and compensation, again, we have $27,587,045 in our budget for fiscal year 25. This is more than $1 million decrease over FY 24. Again, adjusting for the vacancies that we have seen over the last couple of years, and we've already realized more than $900,000 of adjustments in this fiscal year. For FY 25, we are doing this up front as opposed to making monthly adjustments to our budget to lower the overall revised budget down. We still expect this $27,587,000 to be approximately $500,000 more than what our trend says we will end this current fiscal year. So while this is an aggressive reduction, we also feel that we have some abilities to, this is a conservative number that gives us some ability to potentially save money in fiscal year 2025. Fringe benefits of $10,539,277 has been added. This is an increase of almost $162,000 over FY 24, primarily due to the increase in Mosers, and we are beginning to apply a 41.5% fringe rate to our budget. Supplies and services increased by $98,483 over FY 24. Much of the increases here captures escalation in multi-year contracts with the institution. For instance, our ERP, our student information system, one of our largest annual commitments, has an 8% renewal for 3 consecutive years. And so we're trying to accommodate those planned increases into our supplies and services moving forward. We continue to control travel expenses. Faculty receive funds for the purpose of PD at approximately $500 per faculty member. We also have strategic funds available for staff professional development. As usual, the majority of our travel expenses comes from via athletics. Insurance is budgeted at $1,185,721, and we are currently working with our broker providers with the expectation that this is to firm up in the next month for July 1 renewals. Utilities, as mentioned, we continue to see favorable reductions in utilities. This for FY 25, we have a $354,837 reduction compared to FY 24. We left in a little bit of a variance, a contingency amount because of the Evergy increases, but also with bringing the CTAC project online. We made significant adjustments and reductions to scholarships because of enrollment projections, current trends, and the changes to ECA. This number is still a few $100,000 larger than where we expect to end this fiscal year, and therefore, depending upon enrollment, may be a source of realized savings moving forward. And I will pause here and see if there are any questions about the $74,366,182 in our expense model. For comparison, our revised budget for FY 24, which currently sits at $75,234,222. So it's approximately $900,000 lower than FY 24. Appropriations, we are currently planning on a core increase of $819,994 based on information provided by Kofi on the House budget proposal. It is important to note that Governor Parsons' proposal would generate almost $250,000 more in revenue, and therefore, if the Senate supports the governor, then this may be a significant source to reduce the shown deficit that we have proposed in the budget. Due to the expected interest rate cuts, we have lowered the budget number of investment income by $95,455 to $606,545. Due to expected interest rate declines over the next 12 months. Principal and interest, we have made sure that the full debt service amount of principal is shown within our budget. This was added into our budget in the fall of 2024. These numbers do come from our amortization schedule and are accurate. Capital is dependent upon various projects on campus. What we see before us would change if any CTAC expenses carry over into the next fiscal year. Or if we have additional projects that we complete on campus, such as in Hearns or Potter Hall. And again, this is a breakdown of our non-operating revenues and expenses, and I will pause here for any questions. To summarize, we are assuming a 5.5% decline in enrollment with a 7.5% increase in tuition and 1% increase to salaries for employees as of March 31. This does result us in having a $981,146 negative position. If the governor's budget is for higher education is approved, then we would see this quickly go down by approximately $250,000 with opportunities within our salary and compensation and scholarships. We feel like while this is, this is a conservative budget, we feel like we can make improvements to get this near neutral. Are there any questions, comments regarding the budget for 25? Governor Landis, I believe that is conclusion of the committee's report.
Okay, well, I want to thank you, Daniel. The Missouri Western University Personnel and Finance and Operation Committee recommends to the Board of Governors that they approve the final report for March 31, 2024, and the Missouri Western State University budget for fiscal year 2024 and 25.
We have two recommendations from the Finance Committee. We'll take a motion and vote, and the first is to secure a vote on the financial report. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Now, do I have a motion to approve the Missouri Western State University budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 as presented?
So moved.
Second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passed. We'll now hear division report from the vice presidents and other cabinet members, and thank you, Daniel.
Well, you've heard from me a lot this morning, so I'll go ahead and keep this brief. I'd have two additional topics that I'd like to share with governors regarding operations here at the university and other administrative efforts. Earlier this spring, we concluded the analysis of the institution's bonds with Standard & Poor's regarding our public bond ratings. The university was affirmed at a BBB stable rating for 2023. S&P cited that our audited financials were a positive influencer to the stable rating. The one concern cited was the continued enrollment decline, and this will be something that may impact our rating for 2024 when that analysis begins at the end of the calendar year. But for historical context, in 2019, the university had a BBB plus rating that was downgraded to BBB minus in 2020 and remained there in 2021. It was then upgraded to BBB stable in 2022 and has been affirmed there for 2023. So the 2024 rating evaluation will begin at the conclusion of our FY24 audit sometime in the late calendar year. Are there any questions about our bond rating? The second thing I want to touch on, and you'll probably hear more about this from Dr. Foote here later on, is regarding the FAFSAs. And we talked about this a little bit at the committee meeting this morning. As of Monday, we had received 2,605 FAFSAs, 39% of which have errors known by the U.S. Department of Education. This is a reoccurring theme. This is not unique to Missouri Western. Over nationwide, FAFSA completion is down 41%, and we are seeing that as well here at the university. These numbers are broken down further in the materials and board effect if you'd like to take a look at them, but approximately 1,123 are prospective students that are inquiries, applications, admits not committed to the university. So that's basically our opportunity that we have for students who have completed their FAFSA application for this upcoming academic year. Our financial aid team has been very proactive in working with students and getting with various organizations to make sure that our student athletes and others are getting their applications submitted to the U.S. Department of Education so that we can respond timely whenever we are able to generate financial aid awards. We've contracted with NASFA, which is the National Financial Aid Association, to receive technical help with Banner, which is our ERP, for setup and creating a more automated process, which will help streamline things when it is time to deploy financial aid awards here in the weeks ahead. This has been offered at no cost to the institution and is funded by Department of Education initiatives to help institutions catch up with the delay that we have been experiencing with the FAFSA application itself. Most institutions in the state have not yet started awarding financial aid, and we are doing what we can internally, working with the foundation and doing activities with other institutional funds that are not need-based. We are trying to get as much done as we possibly can. Again, there's more information, and I'm sure we'll hear more from Dr. Foote here later on in terms of the impact it has to recruitment. And that concludes my VP report. If there's any questions regarding either. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Next up is going to be Academic Affairs, Dr. Joel Heyer.
Well, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's an honor to be here among you and also having the opportunity to serve in this capacity as interim provost here at Missouri Western State University. For the last few weeks, I've been meeting with quite a few faculty, and one thing I've done for several years is I enjoy meeting with them in their offices. That's just something I've done for probably the last 18 years as a department chair and as an academic dean at 2 universities, including here at Missouri Western. And I've noticed in all those discussions, even though they've been on different topics, they've all boiled down to me to one common theme, and that is enthusiasm, which I think we all know is one of our values here, but more specifically, enthusiasm for student learning and student success. It seems like whatever we're talking about, it always goes back to that. And I deeply appreciate the work of the faculty here. I know that they work tirelessly and relentlessly to help facilitate student learning and student success. A little later on in my remarks, I'll highlight 2 students and what they've accomplished during their time here at Missouri Western State University. But I have a couple things to talk about first, so if you'll bear with me. First, I'd like to talk about fall enrollment numbers and our corresponding efforts. At the moment, we're focusing on registering students that are to enroll them for the fall 2024 semester. The rate of registration is tracking compared to this time last year, only slightly below, about 2%. The registration campaign, which we also call the calling campaign, has been launched, and we're making great efforts in capturing student registrations prior to the end of the semester. And so that's what we're focused on right now. New transfer rate of re-registering is slightly down. We believe this is possibly attributed to the FAFSA processing, which you've heard a little bit about already, and we'll hear a little more on later. Graduate students are registering more quickly for the fall semester in comparison to last year. The slowest class, if you will, level to re-register is the seniors. And this can be attributed to students being prevented from registering until the current term is complete and grades are posted. And so a little bit about fall enrollment there. I want to talk a moment or two on the Griffin orientation or the GO sessions. We have, as we've done in previous years, and this is one thing that's, I think, really exciting. It was something that my previous institution did not do, but we do, and I think we get great results from this. We have 12 Griffin orientation sessions that are organized thus far, primarily in June and July, and one slated for August. Students meet with faculty to review schedules and degree plans. And what I find so great about this and important and necessary is what we have then are students, before they start their academic year, they're meeting with faculty before the school year even starts. And they're making those connections, which, as we know, are so critical to retain students. Students are also learning about student organizations, the Center for Academic Support, so tutoring services and other resources to help them be successful. And so all these tie together to help students be successful and inculcate belongingness, which, as you might be aware, is one of our themes in the Master Academic Plan, or the MAP. We want students to come here and feel comfortable and where they know that we're here to assist them. And I think we see a lot of wonderful results as a result of that. In conclusion, I want to highlight a couple students, and you see them right here on the student spotlight. Ashlyn George came to Missouri Western in fall of 2020. Now think about that for a moment. Fall of 2020. That was a rough time for all of us, right? We're in the thick of COVID, and to have students be successful, and not only successful, but truly thrive. Here's a couple examples. Ashlyn is an honors student. She majored in psychology. She engaged in research in the psychology department. If I remember correctly, I believe it's with Dr. Teddy Decca. She made a research presentation at the National Collegiate Honors Council Conference in Chicago, not terribly long ago. And she was also recently admitted to a PhD program in marketing at the University of Oregon, where she'll be continuing the research efforts that she started here at Missouri Western. The other student I'd like to highlight is Arteme Udovenko, who also came during that same difficult COVID year in the spring of 2021. Again, that was, I think we all remember, kind of a rough year, but it's so exciting and invigorating to see students that really thrived during that time. Arteme has been exceptionally involved in both student affairs and in the psychology department. He's conducted research with both Dr. White and Dr. Henry during that time, and attended several conferences to present his work. And he earned multiple awards during that process. Arteme was recently admitted to a PhD program in management at the University of Memphis, where he'll continue to build on his current research. And it's my understanding with both of these individuals that they have received, I guess you could call them scholarships, fellowships, grants that are supporting them mostly or fully in their doctoral programs. And so that's a real attribute to our students, but also to the faculty as well. So that concludes my remarks. What questions do you have for me?
I'd just like to echo for the two students to earn fellowships. That's a big deal in a PhD program. So we're very proud of them and the faculty who have worked with them. Thank you for sharing that, Interim Provost Heyer.
Thank you so much.
Well, good for them. That's quite an achievement, especially in that time frame, as you mentioned. So,
Yeah,
Dr. Heyer, thank you for your report.
thank you so
Dr.
much.
Heyer, I'm assuming those are the two students. Are they here?
No,
No, they're not.
They are-
Yeah, I thought we were
They
gonna
are
give
not.
Give someone- give an ovation, but
I know.
in absentia then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have a report on the university advancement and the Missouri Western State University Foundation by Mr. Mark Oschenbo.
Good afternoon, governors. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to address you on those two topics today. As you can see from the written report I've provided in Board Effect, our current fundraising performance is very strong for this fiscal year, and we are on a pace to post one of the institution's best performances in its history in both cash receipts and documented new pledge commitments, which you might also think of as production. As donors that we speak with continue to signal their confidence in President Kennedy and the university's trajectory. Through February, we'd raised approximately $3 million in cash receipts. That's up 300% from the conclusion of the entire fiscal year for FY22 and FY23. We've also attracted a little over $1.5 million in new pledges through the end of February. That's up 200% over the entire fiscal year for FY22 and FY23. We also see some very encouraging aspects of the way that we've reached those totals. We're up in the amount of first-time gifts by about double compared to last year at this time. We've seen more elevations of existing donors continuing to give, as we saw 16 new members added to the Centennial Society, which reflects $100,000 in lifetime giving. And we've attracted more large gifts than usual, with a 50% increase in the number of gifts of $10,000 or more. That's still to consider that we anticipate receiving another pair of six-figure gifts that came in since this report, since the February timeframe, and another seven-figure gift that we anticipate coming in this fiscal year. Both receipts and tallies of production continue to rise. Since the writing of the report, we've since now secured another verbal agreement to another mid-six-figure scholarship gift, and other gifts that are currently in the works but not yet closed would benefit areas including the business school, criminal justice, and the law enforcement academy. On the alumni front, this past Saturday, the alumni board met and selected new officers for FY25. These individuals are Janice Wallace, class of 98 as president, Melody Smith, class of 87 as vice president, and Brian Gray, class of 90, serving as immediate past president. If you encounter any of these alumni officers, please do be sure to thank them for their service. Lastly, I want to call the board's attention to a few upcoming events. July 13th will be Missouri Western Night at the Mustangs, which is always a wonderful event. July 21st will be Missouri Western MIAA Day at the Royals, and attendees will have the opportunity to receive a co-branded cap. If you'd like to know more, please reach out to our alumni office. And October 18th will be the Alumni Awards Banquet with homecoming on October 19th. That's my verbal report. You have my written report, and I'd be delighted to answer any questions.
Congratulations on your fundraising efforts. 300% better than last year. That's outstanding.
We're really pleased. It's been a team effort. I have a great team built around us that's working hard. We have the right projects that are aligned with the community. And it really has been, in large part, this year, driven by CTAC pledges and CTAC revenues. But as I say, we are seeing activity with gifts to Potter Hall, gifts to law enforcement, gifts to the business school, and other areas as well. I think it's a really encouraging sign.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Next up is enrollment management. Dr. Foote.
Good afternoon, governors, President Kennedy, and attendees. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you in person. This is lovely to be here despite the weather and the rumbling outside. You might have recognized some of the enthusiasm of some of my colleagues, and I want to echo that before I start my report to say that the enrollment piece is really a shared responsibility across the university. You have academic affairs together with our VP of finance, together with student affairs, to really look at the processes which students enter this university and how successful they are. A lot of new leaders are here, and we have the energy that's building on Mark's enthusiastic report about the optimism that we all share. So I carry that forward into how I look specifically with our team of recruiters in the admissions office about how we're going to face what you've heard is enrollment challenges. So there's some that we can't avoid, and I'll cover some of those in the FAFSA challenges. Those are shared across all institutions in the United States. It's not unique to Missouri Western. And we'll look at what we're focusing on now to improve the communications to our current group of students that have been admitted to this university. And then we have some upcoming decision days that provide an opportunity for our staff to interact with future Griffins and be able to positively set a message within the local schools that we visit. So with that, I will take you on to these FAFSA challenges. I wanted to provide some context about what is happening and how it trickles downstream. So across the board nationally, you've heard the numbers from Daniel, the errors that are inherent in this new process that requires a bifurcated approach. The students take one application, they then have to push it over to the parents. The parents have to fill something out. in order to get this to be processed, and it is causing some delays. And what's happened is that the new change, which normally the data arrives to us normally in November, December, and we're able to package those up in the financial aid office and have those out so students can start making decisions much earlier in the year. This has been delayed for us, and we're now facing this, and we're just getting our FAFSA, so the data that the students submit, if they submit our code to us, so that we can process and package their financial aid, a key decision in being able to understand if they can afford to go to college or not. Because they don't have this, and because it's delayed, every student everywhere is delayed in making decisions. It's caused delayed on our side in terms of the reception of FAFSA applications. It's suppressing some applications. And in my written report, you see a curve that's there. If you look right around November where we were ahead in both our applications, our admit, it starts to tail. And I would surmise that that's not uncommon across universities, that the entire set of universities has probably got a suppressed amount of applications and therefore admits. And that's short term for us to say admitted students. And then we have the consultants. We're trying to get this data brought in, pushed out, so students have a sense of what it is that they're going to receive in terms of financial aid and student loans, grants, plus any institutional scholarships that we will provide to them. As you can imagine, and you've probably spoken with other parents and others that have students that are heading into college next year, there's a lot of concern. They are worried, they're hesitating, and it's causing disruption across the board. So what is it that our responsibility dictates? What should we do and what are we doing is what I'd like to cover. So we're providing information sessions in various places. We're going out into schools, and I'll provide this a little bit later. We're focusing on messages of empathy and listening to them, because that's really one thing that we can provide, is a sense of understanding that this is a difficult situation that everyone's facing. And then we're relying on the fact that our affordability and our tuition standards compared to our competitors, the other state institutions, both in Missouri and then close to us in surrounding states, is our advantage. So we've been trying to message along those lines. We've done this through many different channels. So in person, financial aid has gone out and done FAFSA completion nights in 12 schools and have answered thousands of calls, hundreds of calls to answer questions about how to complete the FAFSA. We've gone across social media. We have digital web pages and ads, and I'll show you a couple examples here in a minute. We performed a live webinar a few weeks ago to where we were sending that out. We've recorded it. People can access that again. And then our existing structure of what we do in our communications flow that operates out of our office is that we have texts and emails that help students through the decision-making process. And we've done point-in-time campaigns, and we're currently in one across several different offices to talk to our admitted students. So this is how we're going to increase from the admitted students. What we're focusing on is increasing the amount of students that are going to commit to us. And that has been our focus and will be our focus moving in the next few weeks. So some examples, you may have noticed a web page edition. This is one part of the response that we've put up, and it leads you into getting information out of the financial aid page. These are examples of different Facebook and LinkedIn ads that we've pushed out to talk about the frustration that they face, and then how we are aiding with low cost, which should make their decisions easier about where they're going to come, because you don't want to go to a very expensive school. We're highlighting the fact that our affordability is there, as I've mentioned earlier. This is Instagram and X examples of what's gone out, and working closely with marketing. They've been a great support and in creating these ads and really trying to hit along our two lines of empathy and affordability value for the experience. So our admitted students, I wanted to just throw this out to you to give you a sense of where we attract students. So literally, we attract from all four corners. You even have way up in Eastport, Maine, a student that's been admitted all the way over to what I assume would be Seattle or Tacoma and down to LA and then in wherever north of Miami somewhere. So we are attracting from all over the country. Obviously, there is a concentration in our home territory, but I thought that this was interesting. There's about, there's over 2,000 students that are currently in our active admitted file. So the admitted status to Griffin Orientation Initiative, we're looking at 4 categories of admitted students. So this is how we're trying to break them down and then provide them with personalized messages. So they've been admitted, they've not yet committed, but they do have a FAFSA file on FAFSA file submitted to us. That's sort of priority number 1. We're talking to them this week. Hey, time to commit. And there's certain reasons why students may delay that, even though they have a FAFSA submitted. There's committed students that don't have a FAFSA on file and they've not yet registered for, I apologize, that should be capital O, GO, Griffin Orientation in the summertime. And then we have committed that they have the FAFSA on file and they don't have GO. So we're talking to them and saying, hey, thanks for committing. You're coming soon. Let's get you registered and find out a date that's going to work for you to get into classes. Some messaging too is that the sooner that they come in to go, the better class that they have. So we sort of talked to them about the fact that unless you are an early riser, you might want to come to an earlier session. But we try to talk to them and provide them with impetus to make that decision. And then we have our last file, and this is the largest file. They've been admitted, they've not yet committed, and they do not have a FAFSA on file. And so that's a broader net that we throw out. It's over 1,000 students that we're really trying to get them to take that next step and say, hey, this is where you go to fill out your FAFSA. This is where you're going to go to make a decision and come to Missouri Western. We're talking about our affordability in that structure. So how we're doing this is through these 3 examples here. We're working with a company that works with our advisors out of the academic affairs that's designed to be a chatbot that engages them. It sends out a text. If they have a reply, it replies back to them with various programmed responses that gets them to feed back to us, in which we can then, working with academic affairs, react to what those messages are. And that's been a very effective campaign. This is actually new, being aimed at not just current students, and some of the current students may have gotten some Max, the Griffin chatbot chats already asking about what's your experience here and so forth. We're now putting this into our admitted student population to try to get them to get into GO. And then once they're in GO, we want them to stay all the way through to EDGE. So this is an exciting development. It's a change from what we've done in the past. We have our recruiters, they've got a list, and every day they're making phone calls and texts. Usually a text first, because if you get a phone call from a number you don't know, you're not answering normally. So we'll do a text and then a phone call session to talk to them and try to get them to either tell us that they're coming, or we sometimes receive the fact that, oh no, I'm decided I'm going to go here, which is a normal part of what students do now when you're applying to 5 or 6 schools. And then again, we have our SMS and email system, of which we have a pre-programmed system that runs where students fall within our funnel. And then we have a point in time one that we're adding in on top for this month to be a mini campaign to increase our commitments to this university and registrations for GO. I'll pause, let you take a look at this. These are upcoming decision day events. We've already gone to one event. I don't have any camera photos of those because I wasn't available to be there. But we've gone to Lafayette already, took a bunch of staff and some cupcakes and made a big event out of it. And we're going to do some of that the same with our St. Joseph schools. So we're going to go to Benton on the 3rd, Central on the 15th for their decision days, and make sure that we're showing up loud and proud. So that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Dr. Foot,
Yes.
do you think the FAFSA problems are going to cause a delay or maybe just people taking a pause in enrollment nationally? Or maybe parents not figuring out their full financial picture until they really know it. Say maybe I'll take a semester off or a year off.
You know, I've had some anecdotal stuff. We've since I've had a conversation with Dr. Kennedy earlier in the week, I wanted to qualify some of my early anecdotal experiences where students have fed back directly to us that exactly what they're going to do. They're just like, I'm going to pause. I'm going to wait. We're deferring enrollment to come here. And of those that are deferring, the number is indicating that probably about a third of them are thinking about deferring and taking a semester or a year off. So that's our data. I don't know how it relates nationally. Yeah, but we have a report that I'll be able to share with Dr. Kennedy in the future. We might get a sense of why students aren't going to college, but it's, you capture them only if they choose. If they just ghost you and not come back with a reason, they just let their application die on the vine, you don't know. But that's why we're calling to try to get them to tell us, hey, this is what it is. And we have a questionnaire when they go in, and if they were to say, I'm not going to come here, they provide some reasons, and we're capturing what some of those reasons are.
Dr. Foote,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have the report from the Student Affairs, Dr. Robert Goltra.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Board of Governors, President Kennedy, for having me. You do have my written report, so I'll highlight a few things in the oral report. I'd like to first give kudos to a great center that we have here within Student Affairs on our campus that is never overlooked, but never can get enough kudos, and that is our Center for Counseling Services. A lot of kudos to our Director of Counseling, Ms. Katie Myron, and also counselors Katie McAndrews, Jackie McGuire. Our partnership with the Family Guidance Center is instrumental in the work we do with Amanda Mortelli. Then also Taylor Chance is an intern who's getting a full load of experience given the need of our student body. A couple of data points to speak to as well is keep in mind almost 2,000 appointments have been logged during this academic year with over 1,200 hours of student-to-student face-to-face contact. That just gives you a quick sampling of what that means. The big piece of that I think that all of our student affairs should strive for, our departments, is that 90% of our students who attend counseling sessions strongly agree that they'd recommend that to a peer. That's big. That's big. So thank you to Counseling Services and their work. Also want to, as we wrap up the academic year and head into a big May 4th celebration, our collaboration with many stakeholders across our campus and also across our community. A couple I want to highlight just for time's sake is Second Harvest and their work with our university. Also the YWCA and the multiple partnerships they've had within our community and with Missouri Western. And then also highlight our work with the foundation and athletics. You guys are greatly appreciated in what you do for our student body. Commencement, May 4th. I'm sure you've heard of that date. It's a big one. Calendars are marked. I just want to highlight, and I won't tell the full story because our students will share that. We have two outstanding commencement speakers who were selected from an outstanding pool through a committee. The AM session, Masioe Pershing, who is a biology major, who has accepted an opportunity to continue her studies at Colorado State University, will be speaking. She's been active in numerous student organizations, a residence hall assistant, and then also key in the Center for Student Support and the work we do for tutoring and academic services there. So congratulations to that young lady. Then also the PM session will be a student, Ethan Lowe, who is an early childhood major, who has already accepted a position to teach in the St. Joe schools. And we're excited about that. Very active in the St. Joseph chapter of the Missouri Association of the Education of Young Children. And then also is instrumental in producing a documentary of what it looked like from the eyes of our students during COVID. We have, speaking of that, I highlight an opportunity that Betsy Wright had pointed out to me as we were walking across campus on a beautiful day. That, you know, this for many of our students graduating will be the first opportunity they've had to walk across the stage, because this is one of the classes that was COVID-19 that may have missed their high school graduation altogether. So that's an interesting point, and I look forward to seeing that possibly spotlighted in their presentations. Another important ceremony is on May 3rd, is our International and Multicultural SASH ceremony. That is that evening around 5 p.m. or at 5 p.m. Artemi Udovenko was highlighted earlier through academic affairs, but also just highlight again a psychology major who is going to the University of Memphis. But he'll share his plight as an international student coming here during COVID, then also his leadership. He set the bar in terms of involvement for our student body. Also, Najuk Khan, who is wrapping up a master's in forensics, who will have a chance to share that evening her travels from a war-torn South Sudan. She was a commencement speaker, I believe, a couple of years ago. And so she'll have an opportunity to share that with some students who haven't heard that story, and it's a powerful one. I'll wrap up a couple of things to highlight. We had our first annual RSO recognition night for those students who are leaders of our registered student organization. We have over 55 registered student organizations, but also the advisors. There's not big hefty bonuses that come with that, but the retention, the interaction, the meaningfulness of those advisors and their work with our students is huge. So if you know an advisor or are an advisor, tell them thank you, and definitely tell them thank you. By the way, we won that evening that we were recognizing against Rockhurst. I believe it was maybe 19-5, 9. Yeah. Yeah. So that pretty impressive. But women's lacrosse, if you've not seen a match, great stuff. This summer, as I wrap up my first year in student affairs, I want to highlight this summer a couple of areas that I know we can continue to grow. One of those is just the culture and the environment that is student affairs, and then also our event management and planning. So we'll be working with Mr. Wes Simmons with the 3D Institute and doing some training for our student affairs staff. We may have an opportunity to team with a couple of other areas of the institution as we put that on. And then I'm also looking forward to the event management training that we're going to use a professional organization through NACA, which is the National Association of Student Activities. We look forward to that. And then lastly, want to highlight a great ceremony we had this past Tuesday evening. For those of attendance, thank you. For those who nominated students, thank you. We had a record high nomination of students to be awarded what they call a SOAR award, so Student Organization and Achievement Recognition. We had many students recognized, and the few that did win that evening, that was an exclusive award, but they truly valued and truly showed what it means to be a Griffin. So we appreciate that as well. So congratulations to all nominees and award winners there. And that is my report. Any questions regarding student affairs? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goltra. Next is a report on athletics by Mr. Andy Carter.
Good afternoon. Grateful to be here to share a few exciting things happening in the athletic world. There is a written report, and I'm not going to try to regurgitate that. However, there are a couple things I think are important to note. Number one, we had an outstanding event Dr. Goltra referred to with the women's lacrosse match. That is our first win over Rockhurst in our program's 4-year history. So that was also important. And then we dovetailed that right into our football spring game. We had football alumni barbecue going on, our social event, and that was well attended. I thought the crowd was great. I thought the energy was really, really good. And then the following morning, I guess, we had the golf tournament at St. Joseph Country Club. So that was a great weekend for Griffin athletics. Secondly, I would highlight As most of you know, we had a press conference this past Monday and hired our new women's basketball coach and introduced her to the campus and to the community. Ashton Feldhaus is off and running. I know we already have 5 visits for recruits set up for this next week. And so it's going to be a fun time watching her put together that program. If you haven't had a chance to see her, meet her, listen to her, I think you'll be equally impressed. Want to also make sure that everybody understands the invite is wide open for the Golden Griffins Awards night, which is on Monday. Doors open at 6 at the Missouri Theater. It is really a great way to end, although we have competitions continuing, it's a great way to end our athletic seasons and provide recognition for those students that have really stood out throughout the year. Couple more things. July 15th will be our Griffin Athletics golf tournament at the country club. And we're gearing up with a charity auction as well. And so put that down. And if you'd like to be part of that, you can let us know and we can get you the information. And then the last thing I would want to tell you is that really proud of our administrative staff in the athletic department. Grayson Dudley and Madeline Simmons helped 3 of our students to navigate a highly competitive, highly contentious process with the NCAA for degree completion scholarships. These are available to students who have finished their eligibility, still have hours to complete. And if you imagine over all of Division II, how many student athletes might apply for that? Well, I can tell you, not as many as you'd think, because the process is quite arduous. It is really difficult to get through it. But we navigated 3 through the process, and we were awarded over $40,000 in scholarships for those 3 students to finish their degree. And so I'm really proud of the staff members and of those students that have shown a level of tenacity to get through that process and get the resources that they needed to be able to complete. That is the end of my report, and I'd be glad to take any questions.
Well, I might echo some of your thoughts about Coach Feldhaus. That was quite an event, and she's very enthusiastic, and it's catching. So looking forward to continuing our great women's basketball tradition here.
Thank you, Governor.
And the lacrosse comments, I echo that. I had never watched it on TV. I've never been to a game until last Friday against Rockhurst, and it's quite a sport.
Yeah, I'll throw an anecdote in on that, is that, we just hired a young first-time head coach in women's basketball, and that seems to have everybody's attention. But we hired a young first-time head coach in our lacrosse program, and she just keeps winning more every year, and have now made the tournament 2 years in a row. And really excited for the future of that program. The energy level, the vision, and the way they coach our young people is impressive.
Well, it's an impressive team in an impressive sport, and I came back the following Sunday for the last one. I just wished I'd have went to the first one this year, but it's very, very catching. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from our student governor, Mr. Garrett Jackson.
Good afternoon. A couple of highlights that I have. April 2nd, I was group with 3 students that went to Kansas City for the AGC Missouri conference in Kansas City. This was a very good conference to go to represent the engineering technology department and just catch up on some industry trends and learn some new material that we get to take back to class and share with our peers. So that was a fantastic opportunity. We all enjoy being part of that club, and that was a good event to participate in. I'd like to highlight Student Affairs volunteer community for volunteering. The big event that we had about a month ago, I was able to participate in that as well. And that was a fantastic event to see students helping out in the community. And that was an excellent thing for the community to see, and also to help beautify Mount Moore Cemetery. And on the SOAR awards, I'd like to give a special congratulations to Roger Collins. He was nominated and received 3 prestigious awards from the university. And so I've known Roger for a couple of years, and I speak with him. And that was spectacular to see him receive those awards and honored in such a way. And he's also earned several hundred service hours during his time at the university. So if you know and see Roger, give him a congratulations. And just generally, students are excited to see the semester through to its end. Only a week and a half left, which is scary and exceptionally exciting, myself included. I'm excited for May 4th. So that'll start a new chapter for a lot of people. And I am pleased and excited to continue my time here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett. We'll now hear from our president, President Kennedy.
Well, thank you, Chair Urbisol, Vice Chair Norton, and governors, as well as our guests in the gallery and those watching online. It is my pleasure to address you all this afternoon. First of all, I would like to formally welcome Mrs. Tama Wagner, whose first day was April 16th of 2024. And Tama is serving as the university's Chief Assistant for Strategic Initiatives. She'll be responsible for development, implementation, and oversight of selected presidential and/or university initiatives. For example, on the marketing research and brand development work that we're doing with UDL, and she'll be initiating work on the next university strategic plan, which, as governors will recall, expires in 2025, and we'll have more details on that to follow. For those of you who don't know Tama, she served 5 years as the director of the St. Joseph Community Alliance and guided the community plan Imagine St. Joseph 2040, which is a shared vision of the future for our city. She previously served in marketing and communication roles at Lifeline Foods, Truman Medical Center, which is now University Health, and Mosaic Life Care. So won't you please join me in welcoming Tama to our Griffin. I'm excited to have Tama here. It's good to have you. So I also have congratulations to one of our own, Governor Grimwood, on becoming the 2024 Missouri Western State University inaugural Pickle Palooza champion of the pickleball tournaments. This was, of course, with his doubles partner, our own tennis coach, Alejandro de la Torre. So congratulations.
Thank you. I picked the right partner.
Well, I think you play pretty well from what I understand myself. So, but as governors have heard today, there has been much positive energy on campus this spring. We've heard from academic affairs. They've been working with admissions. We have efforts underway to enhance our academic pieces related to Griffin orientation. And while our Griffin orientation does not begin until June 4th, that might sound like it's a ways away, but realize it's only 39 days away. So it's coming very shortly. We also have heard this semester that we had over 66 applied learning experience that engaged 500 of our students, and that our faculty reported having participated in 118 scholarly activities, and that both faculty and staff chalked up 165 professional accomplishments. Those are impressive numbers, and it represents applied learning in action. I'm also happy to say that the 2024 Summer Fellowship Faculty Research Grants have been awarded, and our awardees this particular summer coming up are Dr. Changala Barta, Dr. Ashley Elias, Dr. Mark Mills, Dr. Jennifer Oliverio, Dr. Elizabeth Thorne-Wallington, and Dr. Adrian Johnson. That's a team project. And Dr. Kristen Walton. I would read all of the titles of their projects, but I believe they're in the board. They are. So, and I'm really, really happy to report on that this initiative, which we started as a pilot program, has now received the opportunity to be funded fully from our Missouri Western State University Foundation. They will they've allocated funding in the budget, and this is so wonderful because it has this benefit for our faculty that it provides them opportunities to do research, which is critical to our applied learning mission. It allows for faculty professional development, and it offers our students critical, important, distinguishing undergraduate research, which is the highlight of our applied learning experiences here. So thank you to the foundation. Having these types of grant competitions for our faculty in the summer has long been a goal of mine, and I'm thrilled to death that we can now continue this forward. So thank you, thank you. I also wanted to share another piece of the university that is especially dear to my heart, and this is from our Center for Service. As you know, the Center for Service gives our students opportunities to connect what they're learning in the classroom with real world experiences. Of our GIVE initiatives, which are Gold Fridays opportunities, we have completed service days, 26 of those during the academic year. There are 708 volunteer hours, 268 unique volunteers with an estimated impact of over $22,000. That is pretty darn outstanding. The other thing I wanted to mention to you has to do with, speaking of our Center of Service, when we look at the economic impact, I just wanted to point out that's a 41% increase over last year. And the number of unique volunteers is up over 200% compared to last year. These are just outstanding. I just want to give a little shout out to not only our students, but to our executive director, Kim Sechrist, and Angie Osborne, who is the administrative assistant, and of course, Dr. Goltra, for your supervision and leadership of this team. This is wonderful. And so we're very thrilled about that. I also would like to offer my personal congratulations to Sarah Poet. Sarah is a senior soprano who is studying for a Bachelor of Musical Arts with a concentration in vocal music performance, and her advisor is Dr. Stacy Youthy. And also to David Welter. David is a sophomore trombonist. He's pursuing a bachelor's in instrumental education, and his advisor is Dr. Lee Harrison. Sarah and David each won a Missouri Western State Young Artist Contest for area and concerto competition, respectively. Each of them had the honor of sharing the Missouri theater stage as a soloist with the St. Joseph Symphony last weekend, and they were phenomenal. It was a beautiful performance, and I was so proud of them. They were simply just wonderful. So kudos to the students, but also to their advisors who've worked so well. I also wanted to give the governors an update on the status of our Gold Fridays initiatives. As you will recall, we've done 2 separate assessments on Gold Fridays since we first launched those. We did one in the fall of 21, and we surveyed faculty, staff, and students. And we did it in the fall of 21 because really that was the first semester we could actually do a robust Gold Friday. We couldn't do it during the COVID fall. And the second set of surveys were distributed in fall of 2023. Now, while the overall response rates were not super, they weren't terribly bad. The first survey had a response rate of 25%. And the survey that we just recently did was 21%. When you look at that broken down by category for the most recent survey, it was about 15% of our students responded and about 37% of our faculty and staff combined. Now, the quantitative data does suggest some strong support for Gold Fridays, and we're just beginning to look at some of the qualitative data because we need to consider that as well. So when we look at all of the 3 subgroups, the students, the faculty, and staff, some of it is positive, right? Students responding report things like the day off is important because they can work, they can catch up on coursework. Sleeping was a big response from the students, but that's a positive. And our faculty reported that they supported it because it gave them time to do research, to engage in professional development, some scholarship, to attend meetings. Several faculty spoke more about what Gold Fridays had for students than what they reported on themselves. So they valued the applied learning opportunities it provided, particularly undergraduate research and the professional development opportunities. Our staff, for the most part, reported Fridays might have given them the time just to catch up, or it was really kind of more of a regular work day, if you will. Here, too, staff talked more about the impact that the initiative had for students than they had for themselves. But there were some negative comments in the groups as well. So, for example, students mentioned that the gap between classes can sometimes make it hard to learn and remember material. We had a couple students that said other students seem to go home on Thursday nights, which of course then would negatively impact attendance at athletic events and those kinds of things. And And then interestingly, some of the faculty had maybe some of the strongest, less positive comments and opinions. One faculty said it had been advantageous for a limited number of students, but for underprepared students, we, the faculty, need more sustained time to work with them. And then probably the strongest negative comment came from a faculty member who referred to it as an unmitigated disaster, talked about student participation in events was extremely low, and talked about the need for greater engagement. And that was echoed by some of the staff as well. They talked about students leave town and the campus is kind of a ghost town on Fridays. To that latter comment, we do know the campus does get fairly vacant on Fridays. So there's that. We also know with our food service, we talked about this earlier, having Gold Fridays and no students here, nothing really going on, does impact our contract with Aramark, their ability to offer food services and those kinds of things, attendance at at athletic events and whatnot. We also know that it has a kind of a negative impact when we do campus visitations with prospective students and their families, if there's kind of no one here to improve that. So with all of this said, all of the qualitative data, for the next steps, I've asked interim provost Joel Heyer to lead the Gold Fridays task force. This will be made up of a cross-section of campus individuals from academic affairs, student affairs, the registrar's offices, tech services, admissions, enrollment management, athletics, staff association, the executive committee, faculty senate, EC, as well as student government association. We want to make sure we get the students involved in this. Hello, get you guys involved with that too, to really help us sort through this and to look at mid-May doing some work into June, keeping in mind, and I want to make sure everybody hears this, okay? Keeping in mind that nothing will happen this fall, okay? Nothing is going to happen this fall. This is a look down the road. So that's where we are. When I was first brought on, I promised the governors that I would provide updates on some of the initiatives, and here's one that we're ready to take a better look at. Finally, I would like to give an update on the CTAC building and the construction, because every morning I drive by, there just seems like there's a little more done to that. So we know, for example, that the room layouts for the manufacturing technology, the industrial technology, and the construction technology are codified and complete. The equipment's on order. That's pretty darn exciting. The building is in middle of finishing and is still scheduled to be on time, kind of a late June for occupancy, which is exciting. In terms of the exterior, the building's been bricked, the roof is on, and the curbs are actually being poured this week. That's pretty cool. Paving will begin mid-May if we get the weather that we need to get the paving done. In terms of the interior, the finishes are in place. They're painting. The tile for the restrooms is going to start next week. And the ceiling tile will also start, and the conference room design is complete. So it's coming along. It's very, very good. Electrical is on schedule, except for the main bay. We've got a little bit of things to do, but that's not going to affect the startup of the facility. And it looks like they're going to be running power from CTAC from the corner at Mitchell for the sign that will be going in front. So this is all pretty good. I can tell you too that the design team, the general contractor, and our team meet weekly on site to review all the details and see where we're going. So I would hope that the governors would think about everything they've heard today and conclude that this is another successful academic year, nearly done, as was mentioned. We are looking forward to celebrating over 340 undergraduate and graduate students as they walk across the stage, perhaps for the first time during commencement, because commencement is the culmination of everyone's work. It's our students, our faculty, and our staff, and it is the best day of the year. So, as always, I appreciate the work and support of this board. The roles that you serve as ambassadors for our good work is invaluable. And of course, sharing the good news about Missouri Western State University in this community and with your own circles of influence is critically important. So, as I always say, Missouri Western State University is moving forward with clear direction and sure purpose. And it is incredibly gratifying to know that you are all with us on this journey. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
What was the original purpose of Gold Fridays? I thought it was to volunteer, but anywhere that you want to, because I don't understand the mass exodus.
Well, I think the original purpose was multiple.
Okay.
So I think part of it was a recruitment factor. Part of it was to have a day where you had multiple applied learning opportunities. Students could work with faculty on research. They could meet with advisors and those kinds of things. So
What was the survey that you referenced, did that go out to all faculty and to all students?
all faculty, all students, all staff.
Okay, and what were the percentages of responses that you?
The overall compared to the survey or the folks sent out to, hang on, let me, just a second. Okay, so there were 4,338 students surveyed, probably some early college or something. So 631 responded. That was 15%. Staff and faculty were combined. There were 733 surveys sent, 268 responded. So that's about 37%.
Have you done enough investigating to determine with the low response, especially by faculty, that is that like a city council thing? You only say something if you want to complain. So so not hearing something means,
Yeah.
are you interpreting that as that faculty thinks it's a good thing, or the flip opposite, that 70% don't view it strongly enough
Yeah.
to advocate for it?
Well, I think in terms of overall survey responses, those aren't terrible for any kind of survey that you send out. I know they sound low, but typically they're not. And that's another reason why we're setting up the task force with a whole bunch of people across to have more conversations about that. You know, when Governor Norton asked about the purpose, it's almost like folks are using, not maybe the faculty and the staff, but students may be using the survey for something, the initiative, the Fridays, for something different than what we planned. And so I think what we need to look at is, what are people using it for, and what are the impacts it's having on the university, right? So, you know, but I would invite governors to drive around on a Friday. It's a little bit quiet.
What about looking at scheduling it around what's going on? I mean, say maybe once a month have this, or on away games have this.
That's a pretty big lift, Governor Schoonover, to have an academic year with a, you know what I mean? We've had some other conversations about what that might look like, but you know, if you're teaching a class, gets really complicated really fast when you think about all the classes, all the scheduling, all the rooms, all the labs, all the practicums, all the internships, right? And so, you know, we're just going to take a look at things and see where we are.
Because I'm thinking of football games, it's sad that there's no students here. That we need them here on the weekends. But
Right.
Or even if you make that day a Monday instead of a Friday. Well, I'm thinking of, mine's just from high school experience.
Yeah.
Because we had the in-services and one day a month, we had that,
Right.
you know.
Well, I think those are things that we can certainly have some discussion about. And I think too, given finances, one of the things we have to be careful of is that we're not doing something that really is cutting into revenue that we might be generating. Right?
I don't know who is most impacted in the community, but for you guys do, you might include them in the task force. Right, because isn't it theoretically applied learning is outside the institution, volunteering is outside the institution? I mean, I don't think anybody would, I just think if that was the original purpose, if it goes away, is there an outside?
Yeah,
impact?
I
Maybe
don't.
there's a way, I don't know who the most impacted applied learning group of people is.
I mean, I
have
think
no idea.
probably conversations with the Center for Service, but lest we forget, this is an initiative that's only been at the university for 3 years. And we did all kinds of applied learning and research and meetings and classes and volunteering prior to this. So we're just talking about trying to get our campus at a place where it's a little bit more vibrant 5 days a week. And Garrett, I won't call you out on this. I'll just use my son as an example. My son, during his undergraduate college year, figured out pretty quickly how not to take classes 5 days a week. So I think there's opportunities. He's laughing. There's opportunities for this, but it really, you need to think about what's going on at the campus and how we might modify this. So again, we have a group. It's going to be led by Dr. Heyer to have some more conversations from this. I don't think everybody will be happy with whatever decision is made. How about that?
Okay, any other questions or comments for Dr. Kennedy? Thank you. It's time for the report from myself. First, I'd like to thank everybody that's here as a guest. It's to me very important, and I appreciate greatly to almost every chair filled over here. It shows the interest that you as non-board members have of the affairs of the university through the Board of Governors meeting. And it's just me very gratifying, especially for the students that come. So thank you to all, and if you can, come to the next one. The Golden Griffin Award that was mentioned a while ago, I've been to the last 2 or 3, and it's a fun event. The kids get to dress up a little bit like Academy Awards and put on their best and receive awards from the different parts of the athletic department. And it just turns into a real fun night. So if it's any way you can attend that, it's enjoyable. I would encourage it. As chair of the board, it's my obligation to appoint the nominating committee, as we'll have an election at the next board meeting in June for the chairs. So for the nomination committee, I appoint Governor Grimwood and Governor Woolman, and I appreciate you accepting this challenge, and look forward to your slate recommendation for election for chair of the board and vice chair. The next board meeting is on Thursday, June the 27th, 2024 at 1:30, right here in this room. June the 27th at 1:30. Is there any old business?
Chairman Eversole,
Yes, sir.
I know my committee is not the most flashy, but the Policies and Bylaws Committee did meet since our last meeting, and like to just give a brief update of what the committee has done to apprise the whole board.
Please do, Governor Teeman. Thank you.
I'll keep it brief. Some of the things that we looked at, they fall into different categories. Some are we call it for information only. The board does not need to take action, but just want to report what is going on as it relates to things that affect our campus community. One of the things that we reviewed were the policies on the work-life benefits for employees. Historically, that has been in one category. It is now through HR and the various internal entities involved with that are attempting to break that into 3 categories, whether it's full-time employees, kind of a sect or a policy for part-time employees, and then for retired employees, as they're not always the same list of benefits that are over that. It's intended to just streamline and make the information more readily available to the various categories. One part that I think is pretty neat that they're looking at and addresses some of the things we talked about earlier about retaining talent and some of the things that we can offer here. Historically, we have offered the tuition reduction for employees and their spouses and dependents for undergraduate classes. And for graduate classes, it was limited to the employee. That is being looked at to expand for the graduate programs to also spouses and to dependents with that as we continue to try and grow our graduate programs with that and kind of trumpet our own horn for the great programs that we have here with that. Those are just for information only, just bring you up to speed of things that are being worked on internally. A couple of things that our board will look at, but we're not ready to bring anything, here yet. One is trying to have a more comprehensive and updated policy for minors on campus when there's university sponsored, events that runs kind of the whole gamut, whether it's a, band camp or, a STEM program or whatever that may be coming onto campus. It's to get those policies updated as to what insurance you may need to have, what type of supervision, things of those nature. Our intent is to meet again before our next meeting and then make a proposal at the next board meeting, hopefully with a recommendation for a new policy. Another one that we are just looking at that does certainly has effects, but we're just looking into it right now, is administrators with retreat rights. I know that is important to a number of people. We're just trying to stay consistent. We had done some changes with president's contract on that, and we're just looking into it as we want to be very mindful of the value that we put on employees that step out of academic areas into administration, and we value that greatly, and just trying to make that both be good stewards of the university and fair and equitable to the valuable people involved there. And so that is still in discussion phase. I just wanted to bring you up to speed of what we've worked on and looking into.
Thank you, Governor Teeman. Appreciate that. Are there any questions for Governor Teeman? Okay, thank you. Next is any new business to be brought before the board? Are there any comments or questions at this point? There being no further comments or questions, a vote will be held to close the meeting pursuant to Missouri Statute 610.021, sections 1, 2, 3, and 13, to consider legal matters, real estate, personnel, and other matters protected by law. Do I have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. All right, we're going to take a short break and reconvene in closed session. And I'd like to excuse the members of the audit. No?
I'm sorry, wait a minute. Hang on. Yep, nope, not yet.
Okay, not yet.
We're closing
We're-
and taking a break.
We're taking a break.
Good to see you.
Sorry to take a moment. I was laying on good.
Yeah.
Good. How you doing? Use the rain. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. I'm thrilled. Connie and I redid our pond 2 years ago. It was just a little low. It's low. Yeah, we had to stay large previously. Phil, we got a credit. Our timing. So this is.
It's the fellowship that they were talking about.
Well, it's one thing that the grants, some of that are. So.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They were talking about the fellowship thing. And somebody said it's like they were audience and then the word.
Obviously.
He received a fellowship.
How are you?
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Okay, great. It's just like the content part of our. It's just information. I saw it. Yeah. That. Either giving your. Or reporting back that these things are going on. Or we like these things, maybe we want to support them more, or these other. Yeah. That's why she said. Hey, you too. Hey, I saw that, Joe on Facebook. Oh, right. Went through what he was doing. Professional looking photo. They're getting very close. Classes are done. So it's just the last.